Welcome back to Get Even. I'm Nora Koslowski, co-founder of Even.
And I'm Ellen Sullivan, the other co founder of Even. And we're so excited to be back for season 2.
In season 1, we spoke with some 20 incredible women about the real, messy, brilliant moments that have shaped their careers, from turning points to tough calls that they had to make, to bold leaps in their life that changed everything.
This season, we're taking it up a notch. It's going to get even better. We're going to bring you more unfiltered conversations, more practical insights, and more stories from awesome women that remind you you're not alone in your life, your leadership, and your career journey.
In today's episode, Ellen and I will be reflecting on the biggest lessons and favourite moments from season 1. We'll also tackle a live career challenge sent in by you, our listeners. And then we'll share some of our own insights into career, life, and leadership. And be warned, it gets real and it gets messy.
So settle in, let's kick off season 2. It's time to get even. What did you learn from season 1?
I was going to ask you the same. What did I learn from season 1? I think the biggest thing is what I said earlier is when we meet impressive people, we tend to put them on a pedestal. So we see somebody as a CEO, we see somebody as a non-executive director, we see them as their achievements or their title, like they were, whatever their title was, vice president, CEO, it doesn't matter. We see that. We see their achievements. We see their educational record or educational achievements. And consistently, every single conversation has shown me that there's a real person, and they are just normal. Like they have the same challenges as the rest of us. So they've all had to make difficult decisions. They've all faced what we call choice moments in life, where it's been about, how do I navigate my career? How do I navigate my personal life? What's the right next step for me? They've all made these difficult decisions. So it's sort of just that commonality is really important to me. And it's also reduced the pressure of when you think about stepping up into roles, like just for our listeners, when you think about who you might become, I don't want you to put who you might become as like that's so far off or it's on such a pedestal that I can never achieve it. I just want to say they're all normal people and you definitely can. So that's a really important insight for me. And then secondly, that they don't have it all figured out. So they might be super successful, but like no life is free of its own challenges.
Yeah. What do you think? What was your what are some of the favors? What are some of your favorite like tricks or tips that you heard from season 1?
I find myself constantly referring back to one-liners or to stories that I learned from these amazing women that we interviewed. And I'm just like quoting them.
What's your favorite quote?
There's a lot, but just think about we could go like by the set list, but one of the one-liners that I keep phrasing or referring back to is "no" is a complete sentence. Like that was in our conversation with Moran Bailey. Like that's just like, yeah, it's so obvious, but how often do we feel like we have to explain ourselves or we have to sugarcoat? But if somebody says, "Do you want to do something?" you just go, "No." Don't explain, just no. That was amazing.
That's a good one. It's very simple. And it's easy, like it works in so many contexts.
Yeah, just no.
Just no.
What about you? What are some of your favorites?
I really liked Mel's trick with her partner about Trello boards for managing their life. I think they both work in, so she works in the digital space and I think he does as well. And so they had both gone, yeah, Trello boards, that's how we manage our workload. Let's manage our life like that. And so they've got all the different tasks, all the different stuff that's coming up with their kids, their family, what they need to do just to manage their life. And they've got it in Trello boards. And so it's this system that they've both agreed together that works for them, that they can both kind of manage. It's not like on Mel or it's not on her partner. They're both using it. And then I also like it because it is in that digital world. And so it's kind of like just, the little action items, they're done. They go in the complete column. They go in there's the, What's the lag? Oh no, that's all. Look at all that stuff we've achieved. So I thought that was a really smart little system. That was one that stood out. And then, yeah, and I've already mentioned it, but Shilpa was a standout for me
Oh, the
because,
values bit?
yeah, just she's consistently worked so hard in her education, like, and she's had like the most premium education, but then also in her work life, and she's just consistently thought about her principles and her values.
Yeah.
And she was sharing that, you know, she had like, I think 10 plus principles when she was younger, and she was holding herself to these principles. And it was through her career that she's realized, well, but actually, what are the consistent 3 or 4 that I need to be living my life through, and that I can also work with my team? Like, how can I hold that with my team? And hers was that, like, the one that she kept coming back to was that she never lies. And she's like this extremely skilled negotiator, but she never lies. That is a value that she will just hold. And so you can imagine kind of the ripple effect of that value is that everyone knows that she's, you know, she never lies. Everyone who engages with her in her life and in her work. I just thought that was a really well played out kind of example of how that works.
And this is one of the stories actually we do keep referring back to as an example. Another one that we do keep referring back to is Annette Kimmett's advice on your choice of life partner.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember? She said,
yeah.
It
was so nice to just hear it like called out.
Yeah.
Called out by this incredibly successful woman.
Yeah.
And she's talking about life partners.
So your choice of life partner is really important for your ability to flourish in your career. That's what she said. So, you know, she talked about the context of, and we know this, that so many women suffer from domestic violence. We know that something like 1 in 6 women actually suffer financial abuse in an intimate partner relationship as well. And in that context, she explained how, so both in terms of preventing harm, but also thinking about what you can actually achieve in terms of your ambition, that it's really important who you choose to actually, you know, you're amazing. Like who gets to be by your side, like who gets to be a partner. That's a privilege. And do you pick that partner so that you actually have somebody who's a partner in the true sense, who will support you, who will cheer you on, who will respect your ambition, respect your desires. And that, I think, has been really foundational. And I think when we talk about our own partnerships is something that we've both reflected on as an important principle for our relationships.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And then I always go, oh, you know, have I got the perfect partnership? No. So I'm like, I don't know what's coming in the future, but I love him. So we'll keep going. I want to invite a challenge every week. So someone writes in and actually says, this is what's going on for me. What would I do? I've got one now. I've got a challenge right now.
What's the challenge?
Okay, the challenge is, so I don't feel like I'm living up to my full potential. I'm navigating this ever-changing world of work whilst trying to be the best leader, coach, mentor, wife, mum. Gosh, there's so many identities there. And knowing that I have so much to give, but I'm struggling at times to juggle the balancing of the pull to keep climbing the corporate ladder whilst juggling the demands of parenting to 2 kids, 2 beautiful kids. I want to be more, but I feel like I need to be superwoman. What can I do?
Whoa, that's a lot.
That's a big one, isn't it?
Ellen Sullivan. Okay. Who's going to go first?
Well, it's like one of those big challenges that we do hear a lot of. And it's so big, isn't it? It's so
overwhelming.
Massive, like completely why we set up even in the first place. Like where to start with it? Like I think the idea of superwoman is probably a really good place to start, because I think that's how we're told, right? We're told in so many different ways, you need to be the ultimate woman to get anywhere. Which is just complete BS.
It is.
But that's what's portrayed out there.
Wow. Is that how you were brought up?
Oh, I had to be the best.
At everything?
At everything. Yeah, I had to be, not that like, it was more, that was the mantra that I was given. Just make sure you do your best. Make sure you do your best. What about yourself?
I think my mum was more realistic. So it was, I think she realized that this whole mantra of you have to be superwoman is actually quite damaging to women.
Yeah.
And so we would have the conversation how my generation, our generation, how that expectation of having it all is actually not something we ever can live up to. So what my mum shared with me is more about just how do you make it work in such a way that you're satisfied, and how do you work it through the different stages. So you might think about, coming back to our listener, you might think about, right now I'm in a phase where there's a lot on my plate. How can I make that more achievable? So thinking about just how can I take the pressure off for where I'm at right now, and really thinking about your life as these different, ebbs and flows and different stages, and you're going to be able to contribute to your career, to your caring, but you just can't do it all at the same intensity at the same time. We just have limits. Everyone has 24 hours in the day. And so I think I don't want to tell women to do less or to be less ambitious, but I actually want to have a realistic conversation to say, you don't have to do it all by yourself. Like, get help and get clear on what your priorities are right now for this phase in life. It doesn't mean that they have to stay fixed forever. So I think that's one way to work through it.
Totally. I think that kind of comes through, like that came through a lot in like season 1 as well, is that the women we chat to, they're like successful women. Like, and I was a bit intimidated chatting to some of them, but what they've done is they've gone, what's important to me right now. And one of my, Shilpa, like, I remember her talking about the fact of what were her values, and then that helps guide her, and that those values changed over time. But I think that kind of that constant challenge of feeling like we're not good enough in every sphere, like, why are we beating ourselves up in? Why can't we be kind to ourselves in one sphere?
Yeah.
And like maybe just beat ourselves up in the other, or just not beat ourselves up at all.
Radical concept.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard though. It's hard because it's coming from every angle.
It's really difficult, but I actually do think there's a gendered lens to this, and I do think, for men, that bar of perfectionism is not as high. And I often think, what would be the male version of doing the job that I'm doing now? So with the kids, for example, like one of the elements that can introduce all of these layers of pressure if you're juggling caring and career is the expectation to be, a perfect mother. And so things like, do you have to cut up the lunch boxes in a perfect way? Do you have to cut up the fruit so that it's all symmetrical? This is an ongoing conversation you and I have, Ellen.
Do not do that.
But do the kids have to have the clothes laid out perfectly? Does it have to be ironed? Like all of these things. I think what would a man say about this, and what would be their standard that they would be perfectly happy with, and that the children would be perfectly happy with, and that they wouldn't be judged for? Like, what's the equivalent? And can we be okay with that for ourselves too? Can we just take that pressure off? And can we take the judgment of others off as well, so that we don't hold each other to this ridiculous standard that's actually just going to make us all burn out, and it then makes us step back because we actually can't do it all.
No, we can't do it all. We cannot do it all. When you're talking about that, I'm kind of going, well, even this podcast, right? So everyone has a podcast these days. Everyone's in these perfectly lit podcast studios, and their skin is also like just beautiful. Everyone's just and it's so well done. And you could go, well, why don't we do our podcast like that? And then I go, well, actually, we've got something of value right now, which is that we're talking to these incredible women who have a story to share. Why not just get it done and talk to them? And yes, it can be a bit rough around the edges, but at least we're getting their stories, and at least people can learn from that.
It's
we
real.
could hold ourselves back by like that, this podcast isn't as well produced as that one over there, but actually there's already something of value here. Let's do it. Let's get it done and talk to as many women as possible.
Yeah. So Ellen, what are some of those podcast aside, what are some of those standards that you find, like just thinking back to the person who wrote in, I actually want to just offer that we all have these moments where we kind of go, oh, like that's a perfectionism standard that I hold myself to that I could actually challenge. What are some of yours?
Yeah, what are some of the perfection? What are the standards that I hold myself to?
Yeah, that you could actually be kinder to yourself. So, and just I want to share this, and I can share some of my own as well. But just so that our listener can perhaps think of, what are some of her own assumptions or expectations that she could challenge.
I mean, the way I definitely look at it, and it's kind of the same thing that you were saying before, is I look at it through what would my husband do sometimes, because he was primary carer for our kids for 7 years. And so I got that direct experience of, okay, so I'm working full time and this is the man's version of looking after the kids. And I can guarantee 80% of what I would have done was not necessary, because my kids are still alive. They're still beautiful. Okay, life's a pretty low benchmark, but they're beautiful. They're intelligent. They're kind. They're curious at school. And their dad helped do that in a great amount, as did I. So the standard that I'm holding myself to with my kids is, do they get valuable time from me? And that's the only measure really that I hold myself to. In regards to kind of work, I think I would say the standard that I think I've learned to lessen for myself is putting my voice out there.
Mm-hmm.
So you think about like social media. If you look at my social media profile, and please go and follow me. But if you look at it, like 2 years ago, I was pretty non-existent in the LinkedIn world, even though I had something to say, because I was just constantly worried about what's someone going to think about this. Will they think I'm too big for my boots? Do I have do I have anything to say about this? There's so many clever people out there that are doing stuff. And now I'm kind of like, no, I've got something to say. I've co-founded Even with Nora. We're solely focused on getting women into leadership, getting them more money and getting them better futures. That's like, no, I've got something to say. I'll spend that 10 minutes and I'll put that post up and see what the response is. And then, in 2 days later, I'll do the same again, because it might get a better response than the other things. And so those standards I don't know, it's through experiments. And it's also through kind of close support from yourself as well. Those are different standards, right? Like that's how they've evolved.
And I love how, you have such a clear voice. To me, you always did, but you didn't put it out as publicly. So the person that I know, the sort of playful, funny version of you that actually tackles a serious problem in a lighthearted way. Like, I love the fact that the world's now getting to see that more, and that you're just going, nah, like, enough. I actually, I do have something to say, and I'm just going to put it out there. I love seeing that.
What are the standards that you feel like you hold yourself to?
Oh, this is an ongoing challenge. So I also want to say, for the person who wrote in, it's not like we've got it all figured out. Like, all of the women on Even, co-founders included, and the 60 odd women who are super impressive that we've interviewed now, like, none of them have it all figured out. And so I want to say, I definitely don't have it figured out when it comes to standards. So my things, I'm very, very self-critical. And I'm always thinking, was that enough? Well, like, what else could I have done? So if I deliver something, whether it's a podcast, whether it's a piece of content, whether it's a session that we do for one of our enterprise partners, there's a rumination that goes, I know I could have done this bit better. And if I don't challenge that standard, that could easily be in my head for like 24 hours, 48 hours, with self-criticism versus we talk about the self-mentor instead. And so for me, it's like, let's actually challenge, was that good enough? And that's something that I keep having to come back to. What's good enough? It doesn't have to be perfect. What's good enough? So both in the work and with how I am as a mother, how I am as a friend, whatever else it might be, was that good enough? At the gym, was that good enough? It's not perfect. It's not the same standard that somebody else might have, but it's good enough for now.
It's good enough. It is good enough. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is also why, like, we want to support women for like a long time as well. We're not supporting them kind of with one podcast or a workshop here. Like, we're going to support them for like a year or more, because I think it's constant though, isn't it? It's, you constantly can keep practicing how to do this.
Yeah.
And once you start, there are all these different ways that you can look at to go, no, that's enough. That's good. Like, let's move on to the next thing.
It doesn't change overnight, and that's the thing that I really don't like, is when we just make the assumption that you can have a quick fix, or you can do, a 2-day program and you're going to be a different person. That's not how we evolve as people. That's not how we learn. It doesn't give us time to actually test something new or try new behavior. It doesn't give us time to reflect. And so I do think, a year is definitely required, but it kind of goes beyond that. It's like you need to be aware of what you're working on, and then it can be, it could take years to actually to make the changes. And so that's why we're really invested in longitudinal support and building communities, because that's where humans learn, is in communities.
I think what's also coming up here is kind of there's a few things that you and I have a bit of a strong opinion on in the world of like women in leadership, and what's out there and what's working and what's not. What is like your biggest bugbear? What is your biggest bugbear? And then I'll see if I can name another one, because I'm sure mine's exactly.
Yeah, we've got a few. So like, let's see, which ones do I want to put out there? I can say the biggest thing that I really react to is when women are told they need to be fixed, or when women are told they just need to be more confident and everything will fall into place, which that's not real. So women do not need to be fixed. Women don't need to just tell themselves to stop being imposters. Like, it's actually, we have very normal and reasonable responses to being in organizational culture and cultural environments that were not built for us, built by us.
We don't need to be more confident. We're actually probably being pretty smart if we're not speaking up. Like, that's
there's a reason.
Right? Like, there's a reason women are not speaking up.
Yeah.
And not acting confident.
Yeah. So we have this thing where there's such an important difference between supporting women and fixing women. So we're not here to fix women. We're here to support women, surround women with community. We're here to actually have real conversations about what works, what doesn't work, what we try. But we're also here to fix the system. And that's really important for us as well. So we do a lot of wraparound support when we work with our enterprise partners to actually think about how do you get even? And that's like, the name even is not to say, it's about women and men being plotted against each other. And maybe that was one of your bugbears, but we're here to actually get even. How do we create organizational environments that are even, that are positive and thriving for whatever agenda you are?
I think mine would be, yes, I think my number one is women don't need to be fixed. Like, stop it, enough. But the other one is that, I don't know, I think when we're so many of us are trying to support women into leadership, it's through this deficit lens, not just for women, but for kind of everyone. And everyone has to be made to feel bad, to be aware, and to know all the bias that exists in the world, and all the problems that are out there. And it's 134 years until women reach equality. And yes, okay,
that's the reality. But you have such a different lens.
Also,
like, you're such an optimistic person.
Like, how is that going to help the woman who is juggling a lot, has got a lot of complexity in her life, but it's like super ambitious? Does she want to listen to that? Or does she want to actually have some skills in place so she can navigate some of that BS that goes on? But then also there's like loads of other people out there, loads of decision makers, loads of men who, and like, we chat to them all the time, who are like, yeah, let's solve this problem. How about we lean into the action, and bring them along for the ride, to help kind of change things and create that momentum. And I guess because of the sphere we're in, we see a lot of that stuff where it's just problem, 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 problem. And it's kind of like, if I see a problem, but I don't see what you can do about it, let's move on. And so now now I'm collecting all these things that are the action that can be taken that works.
Yeah.
Because it's not fun to talk about the bad world. And we've got like all this news coming at us and everything. Like, let's
just make
get
something
this done.
happen, right?
Let's get it done, and let's have as much of a good time as we can at the same time.
Amazing. I think that really describes who we are. What else?
Like, one of my bugbears is my health, right? And I think it's the same for lots of other women out there as well, lots of men as well. Is just like, my health is so wobbly. It's so up and so down. And so you were asking kind of what are those personal standards that I hold myself to. Like, I just naturally have to deal with wobbly health. Like, that's just part of my normal rhythm.
Yeah.
And before and I still do it on really hard days, but before I'd go, oh my gosh, I'm not good enough. My health is like, I'm just, I can't do anything. Therefore, what value can I provide? Whereas now I'm like, wobbly health is part of me. All my support that has always been there never disappears when I have wobbly health. And on those days, I actually just have to be kind to myself, do what I can, focus on my body, and then I can come back. And when I do come back, it's always very, very productive. And so it does equal itself out. It evens itself out. So that's when I've had to, like, that's been a hard journey to learn. And I think having to, what the skill I've learned is actually how to communicate that challenge in a way that feels useful for me and useful for others. Like,
so self-advocacy?
Self-advocacy, but also not in a way that's kind of going to generate pity. Because like, that was also something that I'd always want to avoid.
Yeah. So what would you say to our even community? Because we do talk about health. We talk about things like menopause, fertility, pregnancy. We talk about mental health. What are some of the things that you wish you had, or what are conversations about health that you wish you'd had earlier in your career? Because you're now, thinking about where we are in terms of life stage. We're about to hit 40.
Yeah.
Be
I've
real
got
about
2
that.
years. 2 years.
About 1 year. In my head, we're already we're kind of preparing for our fabulous next decade. But Ellen, like, if you were thinking about, like, if there was a 25-year-old or a 30-year-old woman and she's just like really navigating the thick of career decisions, and she's got something like fertility challenges, she's got endo, or she's got chronic health issues like chronic migraines, like, what do you think, if you could now sort of take her by the hand as you do with our even members, what would you say to her?
The first thing I'd say is that you have health challenges. And I realize that sounds like so obvious, but we're kind of brought up to not really recognize them in the world of work, and that there's something wrong with us if we do have them. And so it would be, you have health challenges, and that's okay. Like, these things can absolutely be navigated.
It's not your fault.
It's not your fault. There's lots of other people out there experiencing. I think it's like 1 in 4 women have chronic health challenges, and that definitely plays itself out through kind of the stuff we hear from even members. And it's, we touched on it. It's like that self-advocacy, but it's self-advocacy when you're speaking to your health practitioner. So, like, for example, I didn't go to a health practitioner for years because I actually didn't want to accept that I had these health challenges, and then I could just take the ibuprofen and keep going on with my day. Did a very good job of kind of masking it all. Whereas actually proactively going to your health practitioner and talking to them about the challenge, and then if you don't feel heard, go to the next one. Also, if you don't feel like you can hear properly during that session, take someone with you. Well, I would always take a friend or my husband, because my mind would be so clouded during those conversations that I needed someone to hear it objectively.
Yeah.
And then once I was actually taking, and also the hardest thing was getting to those appointments. I would
What do you
cancel.
mean?
I would cancel like 3 out of 4 appointments.
What?
Because I'd put work first.
Yeah.
So I would go to all the effort of booking it, and then I'd be like, I can't make it. And so it was learning to just put myself first, take those micro actions of going to the appointment. If you get that weird, then you might get some news that you don't want, and allowing yourself to digest that, and then making sure you book that next appointment. Like, so I guess it's not this like big broad kind of advice that I would give. It's more that you can actually take it through small steps, and just leaning on the support you've already got to help you take those small steps.
But what I'm hearing there is actually also something about actually prioritizing yourself.
Yeah. Like I needed to. I was the primary income earner, so I didn't want to lose any money for the family, and that was consistently a worry. And I had to learn to absolutely put myself first.
Let's take that into a workplace context. What would you say to women who are navigating a chronic health challenge, or it doesn't have to be chronic, a health challenge in their workplace? Is there any advice that you would give them on how to talk about health, or how to ask for what you need about your health?
Yeah, I do think it is quite hard though for individual women, because to say, oh, I'm going through menopause, or I've got endometriosis, or I need to have a hysterectomy. First of all, you're identifying yourself as a woman within your work context.
Yeah. Actually, can I just say, sorry, I do remember being in a meeting where you said, I'm about to get a hysterectomy, in a room full. There was probably 5 of us, me and you and 3 men. And you were so brave and just honest and straight with like, this is what it is, and factual. But the look on their faces of shit, like, what do I say here?
Yeah. And they were all nice guys.
Yes.
They were all really nice guys. But they were like, okay, she said it.
She said hysterectomy.
I had thought about that, and that was what I wanted to do. It wasn't a flippant thing, but I wouldn't say that's for everyone. But it's to raise your health challenge is quite a big thing to do. And so what's encouraging for me is that workplaces now are actually putting in place like policies and different kinds of leave for different types of life challenges. And I would say you can actually identify the good employers who have those in place, because then women don't have to have those awkward conversations, or oh gosh, I'm actually taking 3 days leave right now because I'm on my period. I don't think many people really want to have that conversation,
especially if you don't have that kind of relationship with your workplace or your manager.
It might be great. You might be really lucky, but also you don't have to be having that conversation. And so you can identify those employers who do have those policies already in place. They're the ones that definitely understand the world of work for women. Yeah.
Wow.
Now, I am reminded right now of that man who was sitting behind us on the plane when we were on a trip recently. And
oh my God, this is like favorite moments in the first year of founding Even. So we run a business that's all about empowering women economically. And what happened?
He banged on my chair and he went, "Shut up!
You're talking too much."
And so maybe that's how we finish this episode. I mean, actually, no, the way we'll finish the episode is I went to him, excuse me, you're being extremely aggressive and I'm talking. And then he was like, okay, yeah. But maybe we should finish up.
We should finish up because some guy said we were talking too much? No, we should.
No.
We should finish up because that's a reminder of like you actually need to advocate for yourself, because we're going to meet things like that our entire lives, and we actually just need to have phrases.
But we were thoroughly enjoying ourselves. Like, we were thoroughly having the greatest time, and the unexpected happened. Yeah. Oh man. Okay, well, I mean, we're going to have more of these conversations throughout season 2. And then the next part in season 2, we'll be hearing from more fantastic women, their stories, what their favorite tips and tricks are, how they've reached where they've reached, and kind of just getting those unvarnished truths from them.
Amazing. Can't wait.